Hey y'all, welcome back to Knitting in Our Jeans. I'm Liz.
I'm Carolyn.
And you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as To Liz for You, TOOLIZZFORYOU.
And I'm CPREDMOR on Ravelry. And posting as Knitting in Our Jeans on Instagram. And I actually have some pictures to post after this.
I should send you ones I took.
Yes, that would be lovely.
But yeah. So
we're here.
We're here.
We've been on a very rapid driving trip this weekend. And we were so lucky that the CDC first opened things up to remaining without 6 feet. Depending on what the laws were in your area. And now they seem to have loosened up a tad bit more. That you can do whatever it is that you had been doing before the pandemic, as long as it's not prohibited by federal, state, and local laws, the store that you're wandering in, tribal laws and regulations, and whoever else makes up the rules for living in your area. So in New York State, that means we still wear a mask when we go out into public. I think that's basically what it is. But we've been fully vaccinated.
And we were not in New York this weekend.
No, we weren't. We were in Virginia, where I saw a lot of masks.
Yes.
We went out to dinner. We took my mom out to dinner to her favorite restaurant, which is Bonefish. This is the one she investigated a few weeks ago because a friend of hers had seen on Facebook that the restaurant had closed. So my mother was so upset, she called me 3 times in 3 days about it. Then hopped in her car and drove over to Kingstown in Alexandria, Virginia to see if it was open. And it was. And she saw a lot of people eating outside. Why would they be eating outside? And we've tried to explain. My mom is 93. So recent information is not going in very well. So explaining to her that people felt safer, that they could be more free with their friends if they ate outside, kind of went in one ear and out the other, because when I asked her about eating outside versus inside, she goes, well, I want to eat inside. I had no problem changing the reservations from outside to inside once the CDC said, people who are vaccinated can be inside with people that they know, and even and the restaurant was pretty much social distance inside. Most people are outside. And we met up with my niece and her husband and my brother and my mom at Bonefish. And we had a lovely dinner. Got to chit-chat with people we hadn't seen in 17 months. So that was really nice. And then took my mom back to her apartment. We stayed there for a while. And got up the next morning and picked my mother up at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Grandma napped.
Yeah, and drove down to just outside Williamsburg. And my brother lives on the James River. And he, in the 17 months, had demolished an old house that had been, 5 rooms and then added onto and added onto and added onto, so that the electrical systems were patchy and the heat was really non-existent in the furthest place. And so they were able to save part of the house, but certainly not a great deal of it, because they needed to do all kinds of rewiring and all that kind of stuff. So we saw the new house, which is lovely.
Yeah.
And is really focused on looking out on the James River. And he can watch, tankers and freighters and little tiny motorboats go by. It really is lovely. So really glad we got to drive down and do that, see them. And then my brother, once I texted him in the morning, said, we have the package. We're on our way.
We got the football.
That's right. He called one of our cousins who lives in Williamsburg, apparently about 30 minutes away, and she and her family came over and joined us for lunch. So we got down there in about 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes, something like that. My brother drives up to Alexandria once a week to do work in the home office. The rest of the week he works at home. My mother is just appalled that he drives that far. And at the 2-hour mark, I said, okay, Mom, this is my trip into Manhattan College every day that I went to work. And on the way home, it was 2.5 hours every day that I went to work. My commute was 4.5 hours round trip every day that I went in. And I went in 3 to 4 times a week. There were some weeks it was 5 days a week. It's just what you do in the New York City area, or I imagine Boston too. It's just one of those
Some
things.
parts of DC.
Yeah, and she's again in one ear and out the other. She's really worried about my brother. It's fine.
Must suck to be a favored one.
He does get most of the phone calls, so he's the favorite, and he can take the sympathy and the phone calls too. But anyway, he hasn't been able to get her in the car to drive down and see the house, so he really didn't think I'd be able to get her into the car. And I had called her the Wednesday before we went down and said, this is what we're going to do. She says, oh, I don't want to do that. It's a really long drive. I said, it's not that long a drive, and you're not driving. You're riding. I promise I won't let the big trucks hurt you. So on Friday, I said, look, we're going down. We're going down whether you come with us or not. We're going to pick you up at 9 o'clock in the morning. And she thought about that all through dinner. And then when we went back to her apartment, we reiterated the fact that we were going, and wouldn't it be nice to see Rick's new house? And we're going to come back. It's not like we're going to be down there overnight. We have to leave on Sunday morning to go back home. Elizabeth has a job. And she says,
I'm not retired.
I know. So she says, 9 o'clock? I said, yes, 9 o'clock. We will pick you up at 9 o'clock. So she says, okay. And she was ready at 9 o'clock. So we had the football. and my cousin and her husband and her 3 kids came over. And it was really nice.
Which was lovely. This is a cousin who is not always on time. So she was actually on time.
She was on time.
Which was,
not.
I mean, you know what? You know what? If that's a change from the pandemic, I'll take it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Love her dearly, love her family. But it's very funny because there's usually like the time.
So
some people, you tell them 15 minutes earlier than when you're supposed to be places. You tell her like an hour.
Or an hour and a half.
Typically.
Yeah.
And so when it's like an actual event that she has to show up for, usually she's with her sisters for those kinds of events, and they do tell her an hour to an hour and a half beforehand that they have to be ready to go.
Still tripping in one of the last ones, so we were shocked when
she was so excited to see.
She was she was excited to see Mom, which is nice, and my mom, like us, goes, "What's the big deal?" But I said, Mom, you're the last one standing of the aunts and uncles, so that's why. I mean, my cousin's mom, dropped dead 10, 15 years ago?
I think I saw actually a thing on Facebook that had photos from her funeral from 10 years ago.
So it would be 10 years.
Yeah, I think. Let's see, Memories, I think is where it was. No, 12.
12. Okay. So it's been a while. And she was my mother's younger sister. And tore my mother apart, obviously. And so my mom's the last of the 4 living. So in the cousin's eyes, she's taken on mythic proportions. And several of them make a habit of calling her on a monthly, if not a weekly basis. So anyway, my cousin was really happy to see my mom. We loved seeing the house. The dog was over the moon.
Oh my God. He was so excited. He was like, you are different people than Mom and Dad.
Come play with me. And his game is not fetch, really. It's you throw it, he goes and gets it, and then runs away because he's...
It's only throw, no give.
Right. Because he wants you to chase him. Yeah. And I chased him at a walking pace. And he kept turning around. He'd have the frisbee in his mouth or the stick in his mouth, and he kept turning. Is she still following me? Yes, I was still following him.
But we don't run in this family.
I haven't tried running yet. So I walked around the yard, and then the trick to getting the frisbee away is to pick up a stick and throw that. Then he'll drop the frisbee and go get the stick. The other thing you can do is kind of do a soccer guard play that has him back away from what he was guarding, and then you can pick it up and throw it. Anyway, when my cousin came, her kids were younger, and one is 11?
I think he's 11.
I think he's 11. Anyway, the dog was exhausted by the time we left at 4:30. The dog was taking a nap.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was just like, oh,
he
gosh.
was so funny though, because he got very excited that Nana was there, but Nana didn't go anywhere near the fridge, so he was like, "What are you, sir? You to me?" Because Nana gives him snacks,
right? And usually at Rick's house, she knows exactly where the snacks are, and she tries to sneak him a snack, but she didn't do that.
She didn't do that this time, which was very funny because he hung around for a little bit,
a good while,
and then was like, "You're not gonna give me snacks? Fine.
Where's my snack? Okay, no snacks. I go find somebody else."
She did get a little sad. She was like, "Jethro." I was like,
"Well,
man, he wants to go
he's
play."
rather mercenary.
Yeah.
And so then we drove back. So it was about 2.5 hours down. 3 hours back? Something
it was
like
about
that.
2:15 down, 2.5, 2:45 back.
Right. And then, as full as we were, my mother says, "Let's go out to dinner. I'll pay. What's your favorite restaurant?" We don't live in Alexandria. We live in New York. A favorite restaurant? You've got to be kidding me. And the ones that I really like are down on King Street and have no parking.
Yeah.
So, on the spur of the moment, they're not the ones to really call up and say, "Can you squeeze us in?" So there's one that we've gone en familia with, 12, 14
the 12 of us,
people, which is Ted's Montana Buffalo
Grill.
Restaurant or something on that order. And we called them and they said, "Well, we don't take reservations within an hour and a half." But they told you we'd probably be okay.
Yeah.
So we drove over there, got a parking space, really close, and had a great meal. I had crab cake. It was great.
It
And
was.
then we went back to Mom's house. We stayed there for a while, did some of our handicrafts. She loves seeing the handicrafts.
And Dad fixed the Roomba.
Oh, yes. She has a Roomba, and she was complaining that it keeps conking out, and she has to go retrieving it. So he thought maybe the batteries were dying. And then
Which it might be.
He turned it over, and the brushes were wrapped around with hair and bread ties and all kinds of stuff. Because she has an older Roomba, which you can't. It is not programmable to stay out of the kitchen or out of any place where the door's open. So it obviously goes into the kitchen and picks up anything that she's dropped on the floor there. And apparently she has a habit of dropping the bread ties, the twisty ties. So they're wrapped around the brush. And then they obviously compact the bristles so it really doesn't pick up as much. So when we left, Richard cut everything loose and actually hit turn on the machine. It only stayed on for 26 minutes. So we do think the battery is
but it had a lot of suction power. Dad cleaned it out again before we left.
Yes, it picked up a lot. So, cleaning out the brushes was a good thing.
You, we also listened to a lot of Knitmore Girls this weekend.
Yes.
We're now under a year behind. Because that's our listen to in the car podcast with the two of us, which we have been in the car together until now.
For 17 months.
Yeah. So.
Well, no.
Last year.
Yeah.
Well, and you and I were. And so they were talking about how they were that in May and June of last year, we're finding things left out in their neighborhood and we're just taking it. They were doing the same thing, cleaning out stuff they weren't needing. And so if there's an older Roomba and you're...
Pick it up and try it.
Yeah, pick it up and try it is my, takeaway from it. Yeah. As long as the vacuum part works, you can replace most of the other parts.
Right.
For not all that expensive.
Right.
So
she Jasmine had picked up a nautic track it sounds like.
An elliptical.
Some kind of elliptical and an espresso maker.
An espresso machine.
And she said they love the espresso. They love both of them.
Yes.
So what the heck? Trash picking is a time-honored habit in our family.
Oh, yes.
So
yard sales, trash picking.
Well, down in Avalon, New Jersey, where my parents had a home, there's some really nice things that were put out for trash. And in fact, I had planned to make a tile top table, but I didn't know where to get base. And some guy was throwing out the base of a glass top table because the glass had broken, and I picked up that base and carted it home. Never did get the tile on it because I never could make the time. But I cut out the plywood on which to embed the tiles and covered with a tablecloth. You didn't know, so we used that a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, before we moved over to this place.
Yeah.
So we did a bunch of stuff down there. We got.
Yeah.
So anyway, should we talk about what we finished?
Sure. Why don't you
start? Do we want to talk about the trip? Because I can go either way.
I left part of my stuff downstairs.
Oh no.
Well, why don't you start talking about what you finished? I'll go grab my bag and I'll be back.
Okay, sounds like a plan. So you all have seen this mitten, right? Well, I have another one that I have not woven in the ends on, but I did finish it. And I was knitting tighter. I can tell that I was more fraught driving down to Virginia than I thought I was. And so this is a little tighter. So I think that when I block them, I'm going to try to stretch this one just a tad more. My hand fits in it, but this one I was trying to be looser. And this one I was just trying to get it done. And you can see that this one, working this pattern from the blown up pattern that Elizabeth had, you can see that the pattern starts here and continues all the way up. You can see here, I've got here, and then I went, whoops, that's not quite right. And then I fixed it going up. And then the backs are almost the same, but you can see that the one that's correct has the full 8 petals there. And this one, not quite.
It's a little
shaky.
Yeah.
So it does need the ends woven in, and they need to be blocked. I would be happier if I had managed to knit this a little looser. And it's not like I didn't have yarn. This is the yarn I have left over. I have enough, I think, for another mitten.
Oh, yeah. You might want to reknit. It doesn't even... How much smaller are your hands than mine?
I don't know.
I guess a lot in mittens, because, like, it doesn't even fit my hand. Like, it cuts off my hand.
Well, it doesn't cut off my hand.
This one's a little bit better. This one's a little bit longer.
Well, it's less tight.
Yeah, so maybe...
So anyway...
I mean...
I think I'm cut here.
Yeah.
So, I guess I could cut it and insert rows here.
You could.
That's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But it does go all the way down here. So, I mean, it's not like I need it.
Yeah, this one fits me much better than that one does.
Yes. Well, I said this one's tighter.
Yeah.
Yes. So, rows to go in. I knew I was knitting tighter. I couldn't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knit from here up almost that much down there.
Mm-hmm.
If I had been home, I would have bestirred myself to get up and get a larger size needle. But I didn't have it. Or I didn't think of it, basically.
Yeah.
Because this was the easiest thing to work on. It was entrancing my mother no end.
Really?
Yes. So... I finished them. They won't be finished till I weave in the ends and block them, so that's tomorrow. So that's good. And I've got my little tag to sew in called a knit story. It's because it is a knit kit from Voss called a knit story. One size baby alpaca. So they should be quite warm. And I am going to try stretching them as they're wet. And I think they'll stretch a little bit.
A little bit.
Probably not much, but a little bit. They're fine. They're going to be fine. As I said, the wrist goes down to here, so it's okay. What do you want to talk about?
So, I finished 2 socks this week.
You did?
I did.
That's impressive.
I know. So, I finished one of the socks for my cousin, and so I have cast on the other one. They're not going to exactly match, because the toe on this one starts with the aqua, but it'll be close enough. So, I finished that.
You'll know it's a pair.
Yep. And then I finished...
Oh, this.
My knee-high. So, yep.
This got a lot of comments down in James River.
at the house.
Yes.
The comments were, are they going to match? And I said, well, they're going to coordinate. They're all going to have the same color stripes in the same place, but they just might be in a different order of the colors. So, of course, you know, my younger cousins who were there, who are, so Ryan's 11, so then Christine's 15 and Lauren's 19.
Something like that.
Yeah. And Lauren and Christine were like, yeah, no, that's great. It's not supposed to match. They're knee-highs. What are you talking about? And I'm like, oh my God, we are not of the same generation. Like, I like them to match, so I know that I have a pair. But, okay, girls. As long as you're supporting me, we're good.
That's right. It's all good.
Yeah. So I did finish those two. They're not a pair, so I didn't finish a pair of socks. But,
no, they're vastly different.
Yes. So I am trying to get through the toe of the matching sock for my cousin so that I can hopefully knock it out pretty quickly.
Right.
Because I want to make 2 more baby socks, 2 pairs of baby socks to gift together.
One for Nugget 1 from Nugget 2.
Yes. Nugget 1 and Nugget 2.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Reminds me of Cat in the Hat, thing 1, thing 2. Except
with
the same size.
I'm very tempted to get her a thing 1 and a thing 2 shirts. Very tempted.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Especially since Nugget 2 is probably gonna come before Halloween.
Yes.
So, but yes. So, I figure once I finish the toe on this sock, this will become my purse project. And then I will pick back up my Bumble, which is at about 7 inches, and I need 9 inches before I attach the sleeves.
By the way, thinking, and I'm the one who drove down. I drove down to Williamsburg, I drove back, and then I drove back up here. And as I'm driving and listening to the Knitmore girls, I realized that I don't know what I've done with my coat. The one that I was embroidering. And all the cleaning up, I had put it someplace. So that may not get finished until we make some other decisions. But anyway, I have the embroidery wool downstairs, but I don't have what I was working on. It's in a different bag, and I think it made it up here so that it would be less messy downstairs. Anyway, I have been working
it looks so
on
good.
this, so you can see that I have come down to here and be working at this level.
You're working on that pink house a lot this week.
Well, I was trying to. I'm trying to work down. So when I run through one length of the embroidery thread, I then look to see what's the open hole that's highest. And then I work whatever that piece is. And then I come down with that. And then I find what other open hole there is. That's actually white. No, that's a hole. I'm working on that. So I'm actually working at that piece right here.
Nice.
And then when I finish that, I will keep filling it. However, do you have something else to talk about?
Well, I was going to just show everyone that I am working on the frame section still of my stitch along. I have finished the bottom, and I've gone part of the way up with finishing the full stitches. I then brought it up, and I ran out of thread here, and I started a new thread here. And I'm going to take this middle bar all the way across, and then I'll go back, and then I'll go up, and then I'll do the 2 bars that go down here. And then I will move this down, do the top, and then move it over again, and then figure out where the frame needs to be from there. But currently, this is all one skein of thread, including the thread that is in the needle right now. So I can see why it's going to take me 3 skeins or 4 skeins.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's absolutely huge.
Yeah. So also, it's not just this tan that it's going to be. There's like a border that goes around each one of these boards. And then there's a placket up the top. Still got a bunch of
Working away.
stitching to do on it. I got a lot done this weekend. I'm actually really happy with that.
Yeah, because Mom likes to have people come and talk, and she doesn't mind us working on our crafts, so that's perfect.
Yeah, and I just really wasn't feeling like knitting most of the weekends. I don't know why, but I guess with all the driving, I was feeling decently carsick.
Sorry about that.
And migraine-y. No, it's the roads and the weather change, probably.
I was just agitated, so I had a headache from 3 days before, and I was.
I woke up today nice and clear, though.
My back spasmed on the way down, but being in Williamsburg and in the new house, I relaxed. Oh yeah, I still had a headache. My back was still spasming on the trip down there, but being down there, getting Mom down there, and yeah, I think it was the being anxious about whether or not I could get her in the car.
Yeah.
The drive back was fine. I was great this morning. Woke up totally clear. So obviously,
me too.
Emotionally upset here.
Well, and Dad said Dad's usually the first one of the three of us whenever we're out and about, or even when we're here, to go to sleep. Apparently, last night he was last man standing. She and I both passed out, which is kind of hilarious.
I think it's a riot.
But yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I've got 2 pairs of socks to finish darning, and I really don't care what the color is at the bottom of my sock, and you'll see what I mean. Black and orange. Well, this is that. The orange is the Kid Silk Haze, which is incredibly strong. And then I use black because it's what I could put my hands on. I have packed so much stuff away. You never know it from behind me. But I packed so much stuff away, I can't find half the colors. So, yes, I wear out the bottoms of my heels.
Mm-hmm. I do too. Not
the side, the bottom.
I do too, though.
I have started making my grid.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I'm warping my darning. And then I'll go through and do the wefts. So that's something else to do tomorrow. So I'm piling stuff up. Then, yesterday, I'm putting this pair of socks on that I made for our Tour de Sock one year. Probably 3 years ago.
I wonder if Tour de Sock is going to happen again this year.
No.
No? They're not happening again?
Not happening again. And all of a sudden I look to see, I've got a hole. It's like, what's wrong with that hole? So I take the sock off and I realize that this is cut. So whether it's eaten or snagged or any number of different things, it's got a problem. So I just found this yarn. What I'm going to do is I'm going to re-knit this one stitch down to here, and then I'm going to use this color yarn, which in some places is the same color as this, to do just a quick and easy catch that stitch and then kind of weave in behind to hold it. Mm-hmm. And that should get these socks back in rotation. So I put the stitch marker holding that loose stitch where I caught it. I need, I think it's five or six rows to bring it down to where the break is. And then I will repair that. So the third thing to work on tomorrow.
Yes. So I know we talked about Untangled being this weekend.
Yes.
We did not get to partake in almost any of it.
You went to the first lecture or something.
We kind of popped in on a panel about creating your knit wardrobe and defining your style. But that was in between us arriving and then going to go get my grandmother for dinner.
Right.
And other than
that, by the way, dinner at Bonefish was fine.
Yeah,
it really was. I had a steak, to be honest, because I really, although they do say that they're good at paying attention to allergies, I really probably should have. I don't know whether the headache on later that evening, like really late that evening, was from what I ate, or whether it was just severe anxiety going to my head, which is a possibility.
Also possible.
Very possible.
So, we didn't get to do much on that. However, if you were signed up for it, and you missed any of the lectures or the discussions, they were being recorded, and so you can watch them. I know we referenced the Knitworks Girlls earlier in the show, And they were part of the lounge speaker series this weekend. So
Right.
I'm probably going to check that out and hopefully, well, I'm going to see if we can watch it next weekend.
It'll be fun.
But I don't remember how long the recordings are up.
Right. So we'll see.
Yeah. But what we did do that was knitting related, we went to Fibre Space.
We'll be posting some pictures because I did take pictures of us
Yes.
walking to the store. One of the reasons we stay at the hotel that we stay at is because it really is semi down by Old Town.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Duke Street, which is, if you know Alexandria, is near King Street. Because there's Prince Street and Queen Street and King Street.
And Princess?
Right. I mean, obviously the early settlers in Alexandria were very taken with royalty. So the knit Fibre Space used to be on King Street. It is now on the V of Prince Street. We walked over there because Miss Babs was having a truck show.
Yes.
Outside.
Yes.
And it was really nice. They had the little tent set up. They had their Adirondack rockers outside. Everybody was masked. So, as the CDC has said, that if the store wants you to stay socially distanced and wear a mask, that's what you do. So, we had our masks. We went down. Elizabeth told me about this. I may or may not. I didn't pay attention when I got the notice because I knew that we'd probably be busy with my mom. But we made such good time getting down that we could walk over. So we did.
Well, and we usually miss the Miss Babs. She usually does a trunk show, and we usually miss it by a week.
Right.
So
this was lucky. And I said, does Miss Babs do any linen? Because right now I've packed away my linen and my cotton. And I really would like to work on that. I'm telling you, listening to Knit More Girls all weekend, I have 16 things that I want to work on. 6 at least. All those projects that are up in that, behind that door over there. The Archo French. The, just, you name it, I want to work on it. And I want to finish my cross stitch. So obviously won't be sleeping. That's very simple.
okay, that happens.
Not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So we walked over and I asked one of the helpers if she had brought the linen. And she said no, she hadn't brought the linen, but there was lots of things here. And I didn't expect to get anything.
Yeah, didn't expect. Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I had my heart set on linen.
There we go. Oh no, it's all sold out on the website now.
The linen?
No, there's some. No, it's only yellow.
Oh, no.
Oh, the orange is there. Sorry, if you're looking for Miss Babs linen, it's the base is called Damask, and it is a 65 silks, 35 linen, which I actually really love. So I'm really hoping that it comes back because she did some beautiful colors. It is sold out currently in a lot of colors. It's only that orange. So I'm hoping she'll have more of it soon.
Yes, please.
Because I could really do with some more silk and linen.
Can you find the picture for this?
Ixchel?
Yes. So if you remember, Pom Pom. Pom Pom magazine a couple years ago had a sweater called
the
Ixchel.
Ixchel?
I think it's Ixchel.
Okay.
Ixchel. I called it Ixchel. Anyway, I saw this first.
This one?
Yes.
By Catherine at Brooklyn General.
So it's the moon and the stars. And so I saw this. It's called River Otter. And it's got sparkles in it. It is a wild iris. So like she made up a batch of these and she's not making any more.
Or she'll make up more of it maybe, but it won't look anything like that again.
Yeah. So I saw this and I liked it. And I said, Ixchel would work well with that. So then we found this.
Well, you found a very, very typical navy.
Yes, I did.
Kind of like the cover of your hymnal. It was like this kind of navy, which is lovely. Mm-hmm. But then I saw this.
We saw this.
And it's this beautiful deep.
There you can see it's got a little
teal.
Yes, it's teal, so it has a little green in it. And the color is Eternity. This is Yummy 2-ply. And this is Estrelita. This is 92% superwash merino and 8% lurex, so that's why it has sparkle. And this is 100% superwash merino. They have the same yardage.
400 yards per skein.
Yes. And Elizabeth looked up the pattern for me while we were standing there, and she said, we need 3 of the main color and 1 of the moon and the stars.
Yes.
Which is what I bought. So I've got Ixchel here. So I want to do a linen sweater. I want to do a cotton sweater.
I know.
All the stuff that I've got in the closet. I want to... I can't finish that coat because I don't know what I did with it. It's around here someplace.
Well,
I want to... Well, do you want to show the other thing I started? Do you want to start?
I was going to show you what I got it.
Okay. So anyway, that's what I got.
So, and then I really was hoping that there was going to be some damask at the pop-up, but there wasn't. But Fibre Space did have Jacqueline Cieslak's book Embody, which has that shawl. It has the Darren sweater as well, which is could be a pullover, can be a top. It can be a pullover, it can be a cardigan, it can be a vest. It's really beautifully done. I really love how much detail she's put into it. And this is it as a cropped short sleeve. It's got a beautiful little detail in the ribbing. I just think it's a beautifully done book of patterns, and how it can be modified to fit you.
Yeah, did she also put in there the sewing for the skirt?
Yeah, so it's a dress, which can be a top or a tunic, and it has all different sleeve types. It's the Woolfork dress, which is named after Lisa Woolfork, who does the Stitch Please podcast. So it does have the fabric layouts and the print at home. I don't know where to get the print at home. I bet it's in the digital. Yeah, it's in the digital download where you can get the that. But this is all of the options for the Woolfolk dress, which I kind of am really into the idea of playing with some linens and making.
I think this is a tunic with
I like the
sleeves.
The tunic with the short sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
I like the crop for like layering over things or under things. And I kind of like the idea of maybe putting some shaping into the dresses, which I could do not a problem myself.
No, not a problem at all.
But I think it's a really beautifully done book.
It is.
That doesn't... I'm trying to figure out, it doesn't hold your hand, but it does at the same time. Like, it's not necessarily for a beginner.
I don't think it's for a beginner,
but
because you're going to be putting your pattern together, and I think you need to understand about seam allowances and things like that, and, you know, where it is important for seams to meet and match.
Well, and she has it broken down into a lot of steps, and it does walk you through, but I think an adventurous beginner might be the best way to put it.
Because there's no darts in it.
There's bust darts.
Okay.
So
it's not hard.
No.
And if you try it and don't understand it, ask us questions. We can help you.
Yeah. But I just wanted to point out that I would consider Mom and I consider myself an adventurous beginner, but when I talk to people, they're like, no, you're advanced. And I'm like, okay. So I even love this book. And I think it's really great. And will be a really great reference book, too. Because she does have facings for your neck. And so I think it's a good...
the knit book downstairs.
Oh,
so
okay.
There's
we'll do that
another
next
knitting
week.
book magazine that came, and we'll talk about it next week.
But I think it's also good that she writes out things the way she does, and she wrote out a lot of the how to custom fit your sweater
Oh,
out
that's a good idea.
and the formulas. And so I think this will be
Which
not
would be very
just,
helpful for people of varying sizes.
Yeah, well, and it's the bicep adjustment. I really think that this book is so
For
much
everybody.
more than just a capsule collection, as she calls it. I think it's really a reference book in disguise as well.
Good idea.
Which is really why I wanted to
And
get it.
We were listening, as we said, to Knit More Girls,
Mhm.
and Gigi was explaining how at her present age, she feels her upper arm, which would be the bicep,
Mm-hmm.
is requiring a little bit more ease than it had, say, 10 years ago. And so with the formulas, you could plug in the information that would allow you to incorporate that greater ease. So it's good training for anybody, I think is the point.
So I picked that up, and then I picked up Sweater's Quantity of Pima 100 by Barocco in this beautiful colorway.
That's pretty.
Yeah, apparently it's their top seller in that. This colorway is the top seller in the cotton, and most of the people in the store are making tops out of it.
I looked at it, but the things that I had kind of circled on the way over in my mind for the cotton/linen, I needed about 1,600 yards because I wanted a kind of tunic length with some sleeve, exactly like we talked about the sewing pattern with a little sleeve on it, so I could wear stretch pants and then this over top. And they had a fair amount of cotton linen, but they didn't have the amount that I needed.
Well, and you could have asked because they did just get this order of Barocco in. They said because they opened a new bag
I was
for
looking
me.
at
The other one.
The other one.
Yeah.
That I think was from Peru.
And it had a lighter put up too.
Yes. And I had already bought a Sweater's Quantity.
I know.
And your father just looks at all of this.
I know.
It's a little delicate.
It's a little delicate.
A little delicate. Especially since I've got that beautiful linen that you brought to me from Barcelona in there. So maybe after next week I'll go and we'll find it's in one bag. So maybe we can find that and liberate that and wash it first in the skein like the Knit More Girls do, because it's tough as straw.
Well, they wash their skeins for color fastness.
I understand that, but I think I'd wash it and beat it with a rock.
Reasonable. Our washer does that.
It's really stiff. And I think it would be difficult. First of all, it doesn't wind. It already shot off the thing. It doesn't wind. It does not behave well with winders. So I could see doing this as a hand roll because it shot right off the winder and went rolling across the living room.
Well, and that's kind of, I think, why I like this silk linen blend, because I do have the sweater I wore earlier today, which is not this sweater, because I had a issue at dinner
catastrophe. Just
a small one.
She ended up wearing some dinner.
I ended up wearing some soup. No big deal.
It jumped out of her hand. I saw it. She went, oh.
So.
But she was the only one that got wet. Yeah. That and the table.
Yep. So, that's actually in the wash. That'll come out before I go.
Yes.
But that sweater is a linen silk mix.
Oh,
and
I think
love
that it would be fine. It's just that I would like to work through some more of my stash.
I know.
Speaking of which, we looked up StashDash because we've been listening to. We started in May of last year and got as far as July 23rd with the Knit More Girls. And they, of course, are all involved in StashDash. StashDash this year with the Knit Girls starts on May 28th. So if I dither along a little bit more, maybe some of the stuff...
I thought it was the 26th.
I think it's the 28th. Excuse me, we'll check. But it hasn't started yet. So if you want to start looking at the stash that you've got and the UFOs, as Gigi calls them, or the UFOs, the whips, because the works in progress count. Getting ready for StashDash this year, I think I'm going to do my best to...
May 28th.
I was right. So May 28th it starts, and you can start finishing something that day. Now, I started something today. I didn't work on my gray sock.
What'd you start today?
Today, I got home.
Oh, I was like, you didn't start anything before we left?
No, I got home.
No, when we got home, and I took to the couch.
And I did my swatch.
Oh, good.
Which is on a much larger needle because I wanted this. So this is this humongous ball of basically plastic, which is fine. It's acrylic. I got it at Michael's. I got it, a year ago, 2 years ago?
Something like that.
Something like that. Not 2 years ago, because I was up there for Rhinebeck.
Yeah.
Right? I was up there the day before you came up, and I went into Michael's. And we knew that Nugget 1 was due any minute, and I wanted to get some very young baby appropriate yarn, and so I managed to get this. And so I managed to get gauge on the size 4s that they said, and this is a garter stitch onesie, basically, or a sleeping outfit for someone of newborn to, I'm getting the pattern out. Let's see. Newborn, isn't this adorable? My printer is having a fit because if you don't use it on a daily basis, it doesn't want to print well otherwise. But it goes from, let's see if I can find it here. Newborn 1, 2, 3. It has 4 sizes in it.
Okay.
So you can go from brand newborn up through the first year.
Okay.
And so I'm doing this in this light aqua teal color. And I have started it's knit flat. So this is, I believe, the back. And I've got, actually, I think it's the whole thing. And then I join it.
Yeah, you join.
Yes. So there's short rows, and I'm finishing the first run through of the short row, so it's the neck. So it goes like this. You can see that I've got everything marked off. I actually started once, and it didn't look right. It wasn't
All
right.
I know is that your numbers were wrong, and you
Totally
were like,
wrong.
okay, we're trying again.
That's right. Ripped it out, started again, and we seem to be fine. So that's good.
Good.
And then I have this pattern, which goes from 3 months to 12 years old. I'm going to make the 2-year size. She's kind of petite, isn't she?
From what I recall, I mean, I haven't seen her since December, but she was petite for a 1-year-old.
Right. So I was thinking making the 2-year-old size,
but
which is
we're
only
also
1
used to
inch different
bigger,
than the 3-year-old size.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the yarn for the 3-year-old, make the 3-year-old.
Okay, so the difference in the yarn requirements from the 2-year-old to the 3-year-old is 15 yards.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
So whatever yarn I have left over from the onesie is going into making Nugget 1 a dress. So, and if I don't have enough, then she'll get her own color. Then the next thing I did was I bought some Susan B. Anderson animal patterns. There was a lovely sleeping polar bear.
Oh my
which
word.
reminded me of Gund. And I think the polar bear is about this size, so about this big around and about this size.
Okay.
So I thought I'd make a sleeping polar bear, and then I bought 2 other animals. I really do want to make sheep, so, but there was a moose pattern too. Have you read the book? If you give a moose a cookie?
It's a mouse, a cookie, a moose, a muffin.
Okay, so I knew there was a moose involved. So I love muffins. Anyway, I think a moose would be great. I mean, she's got Olivia the pig. I think a moose.
You're just giving her all the farm animals.
Well, I don't think a moose is a farm animal.
Oh my god!
I think it'd be great. Anyway, if I don't do a moose,
I'd
I'll do a
ask
sheep.
your niece if they have room for it.
I'm not asking anybody.
They have only a 2-bedroom in means.
They're not like life-size. I was given a life-size doll when I was 2. It walked for a little while.
That's terrifying.
I know. You put your hand in the back and hold its hand, and it would actually walk.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. You could dress it up in my clothes.
Okay.
It was really good when I got older. I was about 9? Must have been 9. Rob was 2. So I dressed him up in some old clothes. I dressed her up in the clothes, and then we played Monopoly. Which is basically, I ran off the whole board and then just sat there. Rob was fine. He didn't care he had a dress on. My mother was hysterical.
He was just happy his sister was playing with him.
Exactly. And my life-size doll and my brother, they were the same size. It was great. That lasted about a week and a half. Then my mother said, no more. He has to be in his own clothes. What fun is that?
No fun at all.
No fun at all. So, you can see that I've got work for tomorrow.
You've got work for days.
Well, yes, and I've got this to work on. So this, which is the
Big ball
of wool, is going to be taking priority over the Ixchel.
Mm-hmm.
But I did finish something that had been in the works for 3 or 4 years.
Yes, you did.
So I did finish the work in progress. And really, once it decided to be mittens, it went really fast.
Yes.
It was just that when I started it, the needle I had brought with me came apart from the cord. I mean, it wasn't one with tips and a cord. This thing just
interchangeable.
Yeah, it wasn't interchangeable. It just came apart. And we were on a sailboat, so there was no getting another cord till I got home. And then when I got home, I got involved in teaching again, and it just never got done. It's done now, and it will be finished by tomorrow. So we will work on the onesie, and then when I'm too cross-eyed to do any more of that, I'll work on the cross stitch, because I find I can do the cross stitch till late at night. I'm loving the cross stitch. I'm absolutely loving the cross stitch. And I thought Richard had noticed all the different cross stitch packages that had arrived last summer. Apparently, I don't know what he thought they were. So I said, oh, and I finished this one. I'm going to go on to another one. I have Paris, and I've got, he goes, you have more? Yeah. Who knew that it would take this long to do them?
I mean, I'm pretty sure we knew, but we decided to.
I thought it was a miracle during the pandemic I could get so much done.
We forget that we can do this thing that we have to do this thing called sleep.
And you really don't want to do sleep knitting.
Or sleep stitching.
Or sleep stitching. That's bad, because I now with my red pen and the numbers that I'm putting in, I'm finding that I'm doing much better in being in the right square. It's excellent. And then I've got the Afghan over there to finish, the one that is different 16-inch squares, 12-inch squares, whatever they're supposed to be, that I got from the Long Island Yarn Crawl 2 years ago. Not this year, last year. Right as the pandemic started, I can remember Richard saying, you don't want to go and get that now. Wait, until this thing, calms down. I'm like, I'm going now. You don't know what's going to happen. So I drove out on that Tuesday.
Yep.
Picked it up, came back with it. And I'm really glad I did. Anyway, it's been a really busy spring because I've done 2 book discussion things through our church. The National Episcopal Church, we're Episcopalians, has a program called Becoming a Beloved Community. And we've just finished it within the Nassau-Suffolk bishopric unit for the past 10 weeks, 2 weeks out for Christmas, Easter, so actually the past 12 weeks. And part of it, towards the end, they're talking about, so what do you do with the information that you've kind of thought about, read about, perhaps changed your mind about? And they give an example of this one church had some of the teenagers who had volunteered to give their opinions on the various outreach that the church was planning on doing. And this one kid said, well, why don't you throw into the middle or into the pot what you can do? And this one woman who works for McDonald's says, look, I've got a 15-minute break in the morning. I've got a 15-minute break in the afternoon. Come on over to McDonald's. You know the McDonald's in town. Come on over. I'll buy you a hamburger, and you can just sit and talk to me. And what flashed into my head as I'm reading this is sitting on that dilapidated sofa in the youth group room, knitting, and having a poster over my head said, it's all right. Come sit down. Just tell me all about it.
Yes.
When we can do that kind of thing this way.
I think we've gotten rid of that couch, though. Well, I hope.
I think there's probably another one there.
Oof.
Anyway, I think that's one of my skills. I mean, people have sought me out over the decades just to come and chat me up. And I think that by doing it while I'm knitting, it won't be my eyes boring into them. And perhaps would take a little of the pressure off. And that's in addition to the hand crank sewing machine. So anyway, we missed the planning thing that was today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in the car. Oh my goodness. This weekend we saw some really tragic accidents. I think the most tragic was this afternoon on the Jersey Turnpike. Now I say luckily for us, it was on the other side, but oh my God, I think it was 5 cars involved. One was on its head. I mean, wheels up. If it had been a dog, it would have been
on its back.
Yes, and it had legs up and all this other kind of stuff. And it had just happened because there were no emergency vehicles on site. There were people with their cell phones out, people that had passed it or had seen it happen. They're calling, they're stopping. I saw this one couple, they were in a small sport utility vehicle. They pulled over. I thought they were having tire trouble as I'm watching the wife look out the car and look back. The husband's jumping out. No, these were people who had seen the accident happen, and they're looking to see how they can help. So I don't know what caused the accident. I don't know who applied the brakes first, but I can tell you there are 5 cars that it's going to take a while to get them fixed. The accident had been cleared by 6 o'clock this evening. We passed it probably about 3:30 in the afternoon. And as we continued further north, we saw emergency vehicles coming towards the accident. So hopefully everybody survived.
Yeah.
You know, some of us haven't been out for long distance drives very much in the past 17 months, and we may have lost our long distance driving skills. One of the things I do is I do give the guy ahead of me room.
You do.
It does mean that sometimes people cut in on me and try to go in on that space. But in the car safety classes I've taken, the leader says, so it takes you 5 seconds longer to get there. You arrive alive, which really is the point. So I do give a fair amount of space between myself and the car ahead of me, so that if I see their brakes come on, I've got time to react and apply my brakes so I don't plow into them. So that's one kind of rule of thumb I can give you, that if you're going back to long distance driving after quite a break, think about giving the guy ahead of you a little bit more space than you might have before, because we're just not used to reacting at highway speeds if all you've been doing is going to the grocery store.
Sure.
You know? And you've got a lot of other people who aren't used to highway driving, who've been just going to the grocery store. And so I think we need to kind of get back into those kind of skills. So that's something. And then, I mean, because 3 nasty ones. There was one on the belt that looked like...
The belt looked,
not quite as bad, but the Jersey Turnpike looked grim.
Real bad, yeah.
Yeah. And then there was one when we were going headed south. So just a heads up about that. You know, I'll let you know how this becoming a beloved community plays out. And if I get to sit with the sign that says, y'all just come and sit down next to me. Tell me all about it.
You're ridiculous.
That's who I am.
It works.
That's who I am.
I know.
And when I'm in rare form, I bring brownies with me.
I know.
Because as a teacher, I knew that sleep, if someone came into my office who was overwrought, they either needed sleep or they needed food.
Or water.
So
hydration, food.
I had water bottles, not many, but I usually brought an extra one, so I had water.
Mm-hmm.
I had M&Ms on my desk,
mm-hmm.
and I couldn't do anything about the sleep. They could lie down on my floor. I had a vacuum, so we'd vacuum.
You had a vacuum, and you also had a pillow and 2 blankets.
Yes, I did.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah, some days you showed up with a migraine and you were down on the floor. So, those are the 3 things. And then people want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I had they gave me the lunch the last day I was on campus, they said, well, the students were saying, well, have you been to this place? And have you been to this place? I said, I don't really leave campus. You don't understand. Mm-hmm. I rarely am able to get out of my office. And I'm not complaining. But I have a student who's usually standing at the door going, are you busy? Could I see you?
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. Come in and talk. Go grab something and we'll have a sandwich together. So no, I didn't do much exploring of the neighborhood except in the summertime because there was always someone at the door, which is fine. I can do that.
Yes.
I don't think I have anything else. Do you have anything else?
It's getting late. I need to finish laundry and go home.
We will talk about the Knit magazine next week.
Yes.
And there are several things I liked in it.
Yes, it is a good one. As always, if you can use Ravelry and it's still okay for you, the links are below. If not, I am trying to put links to sources for the patterns other than Ravelry. But if you are still able to use Ravelry, you can still search for the patterns given the names down below.
Right. As I said, I use the one that's kind of dimmer.
Mm-hmm. So, just wanted to point that out and remind you, I'm still looking into some other options for us.
We'll keep
and
posted.
we've still got, I've got the other options that I know of down below. But yeah. I'm just getting tired. I'm sorry, y'all. It's been a long weekend, and I still do finish laundry. And go to work tomorrow. Well, see y'all then.
That's right.
Bye.